am Dominus Cinephile.
Welcome to my movie and TV series reviews, where I will provide honest opinions of the latest releases. If the movie or TV series is a hit or a miss, be sure to know I will inform you. But if the movie or series is trash, be also sure to know that I will trash the hell out of the movie. I am Dominus Cinephile.
And the movie on the review table today is the Hollywood film Straw. Straw is a 2025 American psychological crime drama, written, produced, and directed by none other than Tyler Perry, the man who insists on doing everything himself, whether it works or not. Once again, he steps behind and in front of the curtain, delivering another all-in-one production that bears his unmistakable stamp. For better or more often, worse. Starring the ever-reliable Taraji P. Henson and featuring Sherry Shepherd, Teyana Taylor, Sinbad, Rockmond Dunbar, Ashley Versher, and Mike Merrill, the film assembles a cast with potential that struggles against the weight of an overcooked script. At the heart of the story is Janiyah Wilkinson, a down-on-her-luck single mother trying to survive in a crumbling apartment with her chronically ill daughter, Aria. After losing her job, desperation drives her to confront her employer for her final paycheck. But things spiral out of control when an unforeseen and poorly constructed incident ends with Janiyah shooting her boss. What follows is an even more implausible turn. She walks into a bank to cash the check, unknowingly carrying her daughter's science project in her backpack, a project that's mistaken for a bomb. Within minutes, Janiyah finds herself at the center of a full-blown hostage crisis, trapped inside the bank, surrounded by police, and running out of time. As tension builds, the film positions itself as a high-stakes thriller. But from the opening act, it's clear that emotional depth and narrative logic took a backseat to melodrama and spectacle. The movie premiered on Netflix on June 6th, 2025. And that's the end of the polite introduction. Now let's do this film the justice it deserves by diving headfirst into yet another train wreck from Tyler Perry. Let's be honest. At this point, there's no escaping the growing criticism of how Tyler Perry makes his movies. The rushed production schedules, the shallow writing, and above all, his disturbing obsession with the trauma of Black women. It's not just a recurring theme. It's practically his brand. In Straw, his latest entry in what feels like an ongoing anthology of Black female suffering, Perry once again leans into the same tired formula, but this time with even less care. In a move that's become all too familiar, the entire film was reportedly shot in just 4 days. Yes, 4. Blink, and the cameras have already wrapped, and don't even ask how long it took to slap the script together. Judging by the dialogue and plot holes, it couldn't have been more than a coffee break and a Word doc. Straw is less a movie and more an assembly line product, written overnight, shot over a weekend, and delivered with the emotional subtlety of a sledgehammer. Perry pulls out all the stops, not to elevate the story, but to double down on the same exploitative tropes that audiences have called out for years. Every inch of this movie screams manufactured drama, but instead of tension or emotion, all it delivers is a deep, nagging frustration. The logic behind each plot point is so flimsy, it collapses the moment you think about it. Let's start with the mess. Janiyah gets a call from her daughter's school, begs her boss to let her leave, denied of course, then arrives to find her daughter taken away. Moments later, she's being thrown out of her apartment in the middle of a rainstorm that comes out of nowhere like a cheap emotional prop. Next thing, she's fired from her job, shoots her boss, and casually walks into a bank to cash a check, which somehow spirals into a full-blown hostage situation. None of it feels real. Every beat is painfully forced and utterly unrelatable. The film tells us Janiyah's daughter is gravely ill, but we barely see that reflected on screen. No symptoms, no hospital visits, not even a cough. just a perfectly healthy-looking child used as a plot device to prop up a weak narrative. And let's talk about the rain scene, the film's clumsy attempt at depth and visual emotion. Jania is seen standing in the street with her belongings soaked under a torrential downpour. But in the very next scene, not even 5 minutes later, two detectives are shown standing in the exact same location. Not a puddle in sight, no wet pavement, no trace of rain. The entire street looks bone dry, like the sky never opened up at all. I guess continuity doesn't matter when you're filming in 4 days. Or maybe Perry just forgot it rained. One of the most absurd aspects of Straw is how blatantly it mirrors, no, copies John Q, the 2002 film starring Denzel Washington. From the desperate parent scenario right down to the Luigi Mangione-style public outcry outside the bank, the similarities are shameless. It's not homage, it's plagiarism dressed in melodrama. And worse, Tyler Perry doesn't even come close to doing justice to what he ripped off. He borrows the framework of John Q, strips it of nuance, and replaces it with heavy-handed theatrics and sloppy dialogue. The third act tries to inject some weight by awkwardly shoehorning in commentary on systemic racism in America's banking and healthcare systems. But instead of thoughtful critique, we get shallow monologues and jarring tonal shifts that feel more like scattered TED Talk bullet points than actual storytelling. And then there's the inevitable Perry twist, a weak attempt at addressing Black mental health, shoved in with zero build-up and even less sensitivity. As always, Perry positions himself front and center as writer, director, and executive producer. Yet he continues to engage with complex social issues like he skimmed them off a trending hashtag. So many ideas, and not a single one handled with the depth or understanding they deserve. The sheer madness and gaping plot holes in this movie are beyond comprehension. Can someone explain to me why, after it was made crystal clear that the bomb wasn't real, the police or FBI didn't immediately storm the bank when two hostages literally walked out the front door? They were right there, wide open, and nothing happened. No tactical move, no negotiation, just more waiting around so the runtime could drag on with forced tension. And then we get to the end, where the movie completely derails into straight-up nonsense. Turns out Jania's daughter had already died before all of this happened, but the film only reveals this through a ridiculous flashback twist. Suddenly, scenes we already watched are replayed. Except now, the daughter isn't there. But instead of this being powerful or emotional, it's Perry-level confusion. The dialogue in those same scenes is conveniently changed to imply Jania was hallucinating the entire time. That's right, a last-minute she's been mentally broken all along twist, with zero foreshadowing or logic. And here's where the movie really insults our intelligence. Jania's neighbors, landlord, and even her co-workers, people who knew her daughter was dead, are all watching her live on the news, talking about her daughter like she's still alive, and not one single person thinks to call the authorities. No one says, hey, this woman's suffering a mental break. Maybe someone should intervene? It's an outrageous oversight that kills any shred of believability. But it doesn't stop there. The film's timeline is a mess. Day and night shift with no consistency. In one scene, a character asks about the commotion outside the bank during daylight, and by the time they walk to the door, literally seconds later, it's pitch black outside. Night falls in the blink of an eye. What are we watching? Inception! It's not just lazy storytelling. It's filmmaking that treats the audience like we're too dumb to notice the cracks. And unfortunately, the entire movie is held together by those very cracks. Let's talk about the performances, starting with the only name worth mentioning, Taraji P. Henson as Jania. To be clear, there's absolutely no faulting Taraji here. She carries this entire film on her back like a one-woman army. Her performance is raw, grounded, and deeply believable, layered with the kind of emotional depth and nuance that reminds us why she's one of the best in the game. She gives this mess of a script far more dignity than it deserves. Unfortunately, the rest of the cast couldn't meet her at that level. While Taraji is delivering real, lived-in emotion, the others are stuck reciting stiff dialogue like they wandered onto set from a daytime soap. The script doesn't help. It's clunky, awkward, and gives the supporting actors nothing to work with. At the end of the day, Taraji is the sole reason anyone might even consider sitting through this disaster. She deserved a better film, and honestly, a better director. Teyana Taylor plays Detective Kay Raymond, and the moment she steps on screen, you're instantly reminded of Tyler Perry's signature casting choices, the kind that feel more like placeholders than real characters. Let's start with the obvious, that ridiculous wig, loud, cartoonish, and completely distracting. It's a throwback to the worst of Perry's early productions. Just when we thought he'd finally left the era of cheap, tacky hairpieces behind, here comes another one, sitting on Taylor's head like an inside joke the audience isn't in on. But the hair is just the beginning. Her portrayal of a detective is painfully hollow. No presence, no authority, and certainly no believability. Her lines are delivered like she's reading off a teleprompter for the first time. Emotionless, robotic, and devoid of any real weight, her performance feels like someone cosplaying a cop at a bad Halloween party. There's absolutely nothing memorable about the character, aside from the wig, and that's not a compliment. She's reduced to nothing more than a pretty face with empty dialogue and zero impact. If Perry wanted to prove he's evolved as a filmmaker, casting Taylor in this role and giving her this material just dragged him right back to square one. The rest of the cast was just as dull and soulless as the film itself. No grit, no substance, no presence. Just empty bodies taking up screen time, filling space like background props with speaking lines. Their performances didn't elevate the story. They just reminded us how hollow and predictable everything about this movie truly is. Tyler Perry directed Straw like he was racing the clock, and honestly, it shows. From pacing to tone, the entire film feels like a first draft of an idea that never should have made it past the writer's room. But Perry, in typical fashion, writes it, directs it, produces it, and apparently doesn't let anyone tell him no. The result? A chaotic mess with the emotional depth of a soap opera and the visual polish of a high school drama club. Scenes don't breathe, characters don't evolve, emotions are crammed into forced monologues or melodramatic stares that go nowhere. Perry tries to build suspense but cuts the tension short every single time with a clumsy scene transition, bad dialogue, or a reaction that makes absolutely no human sense. He's not guiding the story, he's just throwing trauma at the screen and hoping it sticks. In summary, Straw is a prime example of what happens when there's no creative check, no second opinion, and no time spent refining the work. The direction is bloated with self-importance, and the editing is a rushed, jarring disaster that undercuts every emotional beat the film tries to hit. A complete disaster, a chaotic mess from the opening scene to the end credits. The plot is incoherent, riddled with massive holes and laughably lazy twists that defy logic. The dialogue, utter cringe, like it was written by someone who's never had a real conversation in their life. The pacing is atrocious, dragging in all the wrong places and making a short film feel like a never-ending punishment. Every character is either a walking cliche or so insufferable you're rooting for the credits. The acting swings between robotic and embarrassingly over the top, with zero consistency. Even the soundtrack, usually a last hope, falls flat. It's not just a poorly made film, it's a carelessly made film. And that's the real tragedy. And now for my rating. Straw scores a disappointing 3 out of 10. I'm definitely trashing this. Thank you for watching. Please remember to like, comment, and share this video. Don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel and click on the bell icon for notifications. Also, be sure to follow me on TikTok, WhatsApp channel, and Instagram at Domino Cinephile for more movie and TV series reviews. Domino Cinephile, signing out.